Good morning, everyone. My name is Dikshini, and this is my husband Ram. And I will read from the Rays of the One Light, which is the weekly commentaries from the Bhagavad Gita and the Holy Bible by J. Donald Walter Swami Kriyananda. This is week 31. How democratic is truth? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. We live in an age when people assume that knowledge should be available equally to all. In matters susceptible of judgment by normal common sense, however, everyone knows there are exceptions. Access to a control room for intercontinental missiles is limited by universal consent to a very few. Access to the controls of a passenger airliner is limited to those with the necessary knowledge for operating them, and also to those with the proper authorization. If people don't see the disadvantages of making more subtle knowledge universally available, it is only because they are ignorant of the risks involved. In the case of subtle knowledge, the main disadvantage in making it universally available is the harm it might do to one who isn't ready for it and who might even mock it. True, by mocking truth, he might undermine the faith of a few truth seekers. But then, such tests can also be beneficial as a means of strengthening faith. Again, through the clever doubter misrepresentation of those truths may dissuade a few seekers from following the spiritual path. But if a seeker really is sincere, he will recognize the truth eventually because it resonates with his own being. No, the greatest problem accrues to the shallow doubter himself. To give him an opportunity to affirm his ignorance might only estrange him even more from the truth, delaying the time when he will turn, as all people must eventually, to the light. Thus the scriptures advise not secrecy but discretion in the sharing of truth. Jesus Christ says in the Gospel of St. Matthew chapter 7, "Give not that which is holy unto dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you." And Sri Krishna says in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, "Never speak of these truths to one who is without self-control or devotion, who renders no service, who does not care to hear, or who speaks ill of me." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Luke, do you have the picture of your brother? Okay. My friend Luke came today with my other friend Andrew from my work at Hollywood Bowl. And Luke brought this picture of his brother, who is in a basketball uniform. What was his name? Charles. And his last name?
Sherman.
Charles Sherman. He had a motorcycle accident a few weeks ago and died. And I promised Luke that we would do a special prayer for him during our Sunday service. And we'll do that afterwards. But he was in New Jersey, was he?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, I see. And again, his name was Charles. Okay. I'm going to put his picture here. Okay. We'll do an astral ascension ceremony at the end of our talk today. I'd like to read from this very special book. This is one of our scriptures here at Ananda Self-Realization Center. It's entitled Whispers from Eternity. And I see an old friend in the audience too. I forget your name. Daniel. Good to see you, Danny. You were just a little guy. Now you're a big guy. Are you living here in L.A.?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. I'm glad you come. Is this your wife or girlfriend?
Right.
Oh, wonderful. It's good to see you both. What is your name? Laura. Nice to meet you. My name is Ram. My wife, Dikshini. This poem from this book, Whispers from Eternity by Yogananda, is a prayer for universality, and it's asking God to be the President of the United States of the world. And in relationship to the talk that we have today is Truth Democratic, I think this shares it all. O Father, President of the United States of planets, galaxies, stellar systems, and universes, thy democratic rule of free choice and individual evolution is bringing thy citizen children nearer and nearer to thy high ideals. Born in thy states of democratic free will, we inherited our celestial birthright of eternal, everlasting freedom, but alas, we squandered that inheritance, though receiving it would have meant attaining omnipresence, and imprisoned ourselves in debt consciousness behind bars of sense enjoyments, evil deeds, selfishness, and small-minded, narrow patriotism. Teach us, Father, to melt the frozen fancy boundaries of family, society, and national identity with the warmth of our love and understanding. Bless us, O all-wise Father, that we may live in the United States of the world, with Thee as our President, elected for eternity by the free choice of all good citizen qualities of our hearts, ruling ourselves through our own self-clarifying discrimination. Teach us to enrich our souls, our abundance, our understanding, by broadening the circle of our patriotism to include all Earth's inhabitants, every caste, creed, position in society, and color. O cosmic President, bless us that we obey thy laws of life and respect with kindly hearts the freedom of all thy children, fellow citizens with us, not only the good, but the air intoxicated, even the animals, the birds, the fishes, the frail flowers, the moot grasses, and the jungle weeds, crushed low by the tread of our cruel, unheeding feet. Today's topic is a very important one, and we're seeing great evolution happening before our eyes, especially with our own government here in the United States, with this debt crisis looming before us. And but this is truth democratic. And so many times we think, well, what is truth? I remember a cousin of mine asked me, oh, what is truth? And my response to him was, breathe and know that God is that presence of truth within you right now that will guide and direct you in everything that you do if you call on Him. And that God is a formless God. So many times we look at the various denominations and in this community that we're living in, you'll see, I just love the various Orthodox Jewish traditions wearing their hats. I always thought that would be wonderful. I'd like those hats. I'm going to be a part of their scene. I wonder if they would accept me as a part of their scene. I'm really into hats, you know. I've got my cowboy hat. I've got my my Ananda cap, and I've got different hats that I wear. We all put on different hats. But I don't think particularly they would be interested in my expression of what they have to offer. Anyway, everyone is in their own camps, be it from a Jewish standpoint or a Muslim standpoint or Hindu standpoint or Christian standpoint. Everyone is up on the bandstand. My way is the only way. I remember a time when I was with Swami Kriyananda in Toronto, in Montreal, Canada, and it was an interfaith gathering. And at a certain point, there was a large numbers of people at this interfaith gathering. This was back in the 70s when interfaith gatherings were just starting, and they weren't too civilized in those days or controlled. And at a certain point, the Hare Krishnas were chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, and the Muslims were chanting Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, and everybody, this whole place went into a frenzy of everyone chanting their mantras. And Swamiji turned to us and said, "Okay, this is our time to leave." We don't need to get up on a bandstand and shout and all that. It's, all roads lead to Rome. I love that axiom. I was at in a CC once, and I noticed these people walking up in suits to our retreat center, and they had these Bibles in their hands, and I knew immediately that they were part of the Jehovah's Witness movement, which, here they go door to door as well. And, I said, I believe that all roads lead to Rome. And here we are in Assisi, the holy town of St. Francis, and Rome is only 3 hours away. I believe that, but you have no inkling of belief in that concept. You're right. I said, we have no discussion. How can we discuss anything when you don't believe all roads lead to Rome? I mean, this has been an axiom from ancient times. And that's what we have to come to grips with in our society today. The world will blow itself up if we don't begin to open our hearts and see that one essence of truth in every person, in every human being. I often say, even among the races, there's only one race, and that's the human race. And there's only one religion, and that's the religion of your personal relationship with God. You might call it Islam, Buddhism, Christianity, or Judaism. It doesn't matter what faith you follow. It's understanding what Jesus said. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, mind, soul, and strength, and thy neighbor as thyself. On this stands all the laws and all the prophets. And what he meant was, literally, all the religions are based on this concept. And so I wanted to read this from Whispers from Eternity to give you all a vision. And this is the vision that Christ and the Masters are bringing to the world, to the table of this planet Earth right here and now. It's a vision of spiritual unity for all mankind, for all humankind. And that is the understanding that we are all one. There is no separation between races. There is no separation between religions. But how can we create a bridge between the divides that we see in the world around us today? And that is the truth that we all need to come to grips with. Is truth democratic? Is the topic of our discussion today. Well, truth is very democratic, but it's our spin on the truth that creates chaos, that creates total disharmony, that feeds into the satanic influences of Maya, which its whole job is to separate and divide and conquer. That's the goal of the influences of duality. Separate everything. You're different than me. Look at you. Your skin is black. Your skin is white. Or pink. Your skin is yellow. Everyone's looking at the outer facade, but we don't realize that same divine energy flows through your veins as it flows through my veins. And this is what the masters have come in this new age of energy. When we look at energy and we look at the Einsteinian influence of the laws of relativity, and the only constant there is change. But in the midst of the change, there is one fact, one truth that Einstein said ties it all together, is the power of light that moves like a wave at 186,000 miles. Faster than you can snap your finger. 186,000 miles a second. In Yogananda's book, Autobiography of a Yogi, for the new folks that are here, there's a chapter. And when I first read this book, I just sort of, I looked at this chapter, I read it, and I just sort of scratched my head. I just don't understand anything from this chapter. It's called The Laws of Miracles. The Laws of Miracles. You mean there is a law behind manifesting a miracle? You mean there's a law about when Jesus walked on the water and his disciples couldn't believe that he was walking on water, that there's a principle that we can all attain to and follow and become like that? This is what is discussed in this chapter. And Yogananda refers to the Einsteinian laws of relativity and this axiom that light moves as a wave as 186,000 miles a second. And in order to attain that realization of manifesting miracles in your life, it's important for us to calm ourselves, to be still, to stop the agitation of the mind. And as we begin to do that, this truth begins to manifest. And that truth, as Jesus said, will set you free. And this is the path of yoga. I was talking to a bishop in the church that I was raised in. He's actually my cousin. We're the same age. And I was driving him and my father to a funeral in San Francisco, and I was talking to him about what yoga means. I said, it's all in the Bible, Bishop. It's just a matter of reading the Bible in a different viewpoint. And he said, what do you mean by that? I said, well, for example, this statement that Jesus made, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And most people think, okay, yoke, you mean you put it like an ox has a yoke on its back and, it pulls the plow and you become, a plow for Jesus type thing. But yoke literally means yoga. This is the definition of yoga. And so when I tell people I teach yoga and meditation, oh yeah, I do Pilates and I do, Tai Chi and that sort of thing. But they don't get it. Yoga means the yoking of your body with your mind and yoking your soul with that oversoul, which is the Christ consciousness. Now, this is the teachings of Yogananda. There's many teachings of yoga, many different schools of yoga. And usually we think of Hatha yoga as the yoga for, I'm going to get myself into shape. I'm going to do some yoga classes, man. And once Yogananda saw this man in India, was a great Hatha yogi. He was over 100 years old. And Yogananda looked at him and he said, he's a perfectly polished marble temple, but there's nothing inside. No realization. And so many people go to yoga classes and they're looking slick, and they go to the Viper Club on Saturday night. You know, hey, I polished my temple up. I'm ready to go. But this yoga that we're talking about is an inner reality of exploring the truth within you. And this is the path that Jesus taught. This truth that will set you free. Now, if you go to any of the churches here, the principle of salvation is universal. Everybody has their plan for salvation. Well, in the system of yoga that we practice, this inner yoga that we teach here of Kriya Yoga, the salvation doesn't happen. It can happen for you in this lifetime, but it takes work. It takes commitment. It takes the desire or the devotion to begin to explore the nature of God inside of you and begin to see that God manifested everywhere, because God is life. God is everything. When you talk about God, the beginning, the Alpha and the Omega, when you begin to try to grasp this concept, Jesus said God the Father. Oh gosh, well, the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last. What does all that mean? Everything that exists is a manifestation of that one reality. And how do you attain to the understanding of that one reality? Well, God is, as Yogananda describes in his book, Autobiography of a Yogi, he gives this sort of glimpse. God is centered everywhere. Centered everywhere. In you, in me, the floor, this building, our automobiles. I hope you turned off your cell phones. Your cell phone, everything. What helped manifest the automobile, the cars, the video, the streaming of our internet that's going around the world right now? It was this infinite intelligence manifesting through individuals like yourself. But how many people claim it for themselves? Everybody. This is what I did. Wow. I want to get paid for that. This yoga is all about seeing God in everything and seeing God as a part of yourself, centered everywhere, so circumference nowhere. And you think about this one little planet Earth, and you think about salvation given to only a select group of people who believe in one particular guru or master, no matter what the path. And you think, how can that be? Salvation can only be found within yourself, in your personal relationship with God, no matter what path you follow. And the teachings of yoga that we give to you here are there to help you to realize that, plain and simple. We're here to share to those who have the interests. As the reading from the Bible said, we don't offer these things to everyone because most people can't deal with it. Give me something I just want to believe. It's not enough just to believe. You have to believe in yourself. As the ancient Greeks would say, know thyself. Today we have a commemoration for Babaji. Mahavatar Babaji. This is a statue of Babaji, sort of like in his likeness. We have images here, very much like the Roman Catholics. In a CC we have statues of St. Francis. Even in here, we have statues of St. Francis that we put in our gardens and so forth. Yogananda said St. Francis was a part of his tradition of self-realization. He was a patron of that. Yogananda saw St. Francis as a patron of this path of self-realization. So we recognize St. Francis of Assisi especially. And beyond just our immediate line of teachers and gurus. But Babaji, I'd like to read from Autobiography of a Yogi entitled Babaji, the Yogi Christ of Modern India. These are Yogananda's words. The Mahavatar Babaji is in constant communion with Christ. Together they send out vibrations of redemption and have planned the spiritual technique of salvation for this age. The work of these two fully illumined masters, one with a body, Babaji, and one without a body, Jesus, is to inspire the nations to forsake suicidal wars, race hatred, religious sectarianism, and the boomerang evils of materialism. Babaji is aware of the trend of modern times, especially of the influence and the complexities of Western civilizations, and realizes the necessity of spreading the self-liberations of yoga equally in the West and in the East. There was a story it's very beautiful. There was a Westerner, American, who heard about this Babaji. And he went to India in search of Babaji. And Babaji is our deathless master, our deathless guru. He started this movement that we are a part of today. He and Jesus created a coalition, a spiritual coalition government on the very highest planes of consciousness. But it's said that Jesus appeared to Babaji and said, send someone to the West. And the movement of self-realization that is talked about in this book, if you haven't read Autobiography of a Yogi, you should definitely read this book, because it gives you this revelation that has come anew. Yogananda describes his path as the second coming of Christ. Not in a frivolous or light way, but in a very real way. And something that we should all take heart and try to manifest in our own meditations in our lives. Anyway, there was a story of Babaji who, this Westerner, went to see and try to find if it was true. Was there someone who lived in the Himalayas that never died, that was living, that was an example for you and for me of eternal life? And so this Westerner was climbing and for months was searching for Babaji. And eventually he found Babaji and said, "Sir, I've been searching for you. Please accept me as your disciple." And Babaji said, "No, I can't accept you in your present state." And the man said, "Well, if you don't accept me, I'm going to jump off this cliff here, and life has no more meaning for me." "Jump then," was Babaji's response. And the man jumped. And all of his disciples were aghast at what happened. And Babaji said, "Go fetch his body and bring it back to me." They brought this mangled body that had been bouncing down the mountain back to him, all broken. And Babaji just simply touched him here at the point between the eyebrows, as we described earlier, the Christ center. And the man instantaneously came back to life. And Babaji said, "Now I can accept you as a disciple. You have conquered the greatest fear, that of death." And so from that point, it says in the Autobiography of a Yogi, Babaji gave his sacred mantra in Sanskrit, Danda Datao Utao, meaning let's pick up our staves and go. And they vanished onto another mountain peak. And that's how they went, how they travel in the Himalayas. But Babaji is our supreme guru, and today we're at the end of our service, we're going to do a special blessing for you after we do the Festival of Light. And then we'll ask you to kneel before the image of Babaji here and ask him for your spiritual blessing, for his spiritual blessing. There is an axiom that Yogananda gives in this book. He says, to those who consciously ask Babaji for a blessing, he will send it to you instantaneously. And so, to close my talk for today, I'd like just to say one thing. I've been into acting lately. I've been looking for a job, and so one of my things have been trying out doing extra roles and doing some acting jobs. And so I've been auditioning. And so I've been fortunate. I actually got callbacks on my auditions and actually got some roles. And so I was able to play some parts in a Pepsi commercial. There's another, Sharky's is another a restaurant, an organic Mexican food restaurant that I received a callback on and did a commercial. And I was thinking today, just as a way to wrap up this service, every one of us are actors. As Shakespeare said, the whole world is a stage. We're all playing our parts. And it's important for us to realize as we play our parts in life that we try to do it with the consciousness of God flowing through us. Because that is when we receive our Academy Award. It doesn't matter if you're a simple extra and they don't do extra awards, or playing a principal role in a major motion picture. You're playing your part right now. And God is the master director, and he wants to play through you a part that is so unique and so individual. And that is what our purpose is. We are living the experience of a movie right now. You look at the screen, and Yogananda would project onto this. He would often go to the movies with his disciples, and he would have his eyes closed, and someone would ask him, "Are you looking at the movie?" And he said, "Oh yes, I'm looking at the movie." And he would have his eyes closed. I'm looking at the cosmic movie of what's really going on. And everyone is screaming and shouting, and in a horror picture, as he would say, everyone is frightened. And we're living. We can live in a horror film right here and now, or we can live as heroes. We have the choice to live with courage or with fear. And that is what's going on. It's a battle between the forces of light and dark. When you choose the light of God, Christ, and the Masters, they lift you. And one day you'll receive your Academy Award, and they will say, "Good job, little boy. You understand my truth." And that truth will set you free. And now you are free. So God bless you all on your journey of eternity. And may you be filled with the light of Christ on